I was coming up against this resistance, and my mentality was, I'm not going to have this, right? I'm going to find a way to get to where I want to get to. When we're stressed, our brain waves go into this faster state, right? And when we're in that state, it's really hard to see anything from a different perspective. You're like, you just can't solve anything because you're so jacked up with everything, aren't you? And your breathing's quicker, and your body, your physiology is just like survival, essentially. When you do something different like that, people start paying attention, and they're like, some people hate it and some people are genuinely inspired by it, aren't they? They're like, okay, I want to do that. I know I'll always be moving towards all my dreams. Yeah. I just feel like drum and bass is my passion. You know that because I've been doing it all my life, really. I've been involved in it in some way all my life, from a raver to what I am now, and even the behind the scenes stuff. And I just felt the injustice of it just annoyed me. I was like, hang on. You know, not just for me, but other singers as well. It was conversation that we were just having a lot behind the scenes. I've had people say it's their wedding song. It's when they have a new baby, they play it then, you know. And I'm like, I could not ever imagine in my mind that a song would ever touch people's lives in that way. When I was little, Laura, there was no way I ever thought that would ever happen. So when you get these messages, yeah, it's really, it feels good. Yeah. Showing you vulnerability.
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the One More Thing podcast. Conversations with genuinely inspiring artists across the electronic music spectrum with myself, Dave Colombo Jenkins. This time I'm joined by a truly visionary singer, songwriter, DJ and label owner. It's Riya. One of the most consistent and prolific voices in drum and bass since the late 2000s, Riya has been at the very forefront of the seismic revolution we've seen for vocalists in the genre in recent years. With a history that goes back to working for the legendary forum Dogs on Acid and labels such as Hospital Records and C.I.A, Riya is now working with Colette Warren, breaking boundaries and setting benchmarks at the helm of their label Carnelian Music, an imprint dedicated to vocal drum and bass. Beyond the beats, she's also recently graduated as a fully qualified sound therapist. We chatted about all of these things and so much more when we linked up in Bristol at Euphonic Studio in July 2023. This is how it went down. I hope you enjoyed the conversation, and if you like what you hear, please check the other episodes and consider supporting us on Patreon. Enjoy. Riya, thanks for joining me.
Feels like this is a long time coming.
Yeah, it has been a really long time coming. Thank you for joining me, and thank you for being up for this conversation.
Thank you for having me. God, we met I've been speaking to you since 2007, I think it was.
Yeah, what's really weird, and that's what I was going to start this interview with, is you interviewed me before I've ever interviewed you.
It's like a full circle now, which is really sweet.
Yeah. I mean, let's go back to that time. Yeah. You were just finishing your dissertation and you were working for C.I.A. You sent me Bungle's first album.
I did.
I was editor. No, I wasn't even editor of IDJ. I would have been like clubs editor or something like that. I was really early on my journey. You were really early on your journey. What are your memories of that time?
Well, I mean, I was finishing off my university degree, you know, and I went into that degree, which was in PR, by the way. And I went into that degree because I come from like a working class family, and I went into it thinking I can't leave university without solid work experience. I need to get a good job. I need to earn some money. You know, I didn't want to basically not have money. So I worked like 3 jobs, and one of them, the first internship that I ever got during uni before I was working for Total Science, was working for Hospital Records.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I applied to loads of places. Drum and bass was obviously my passion, so I was like, I'm going to apply to drum and bass labels, see if I can get a little internship somewhere. And Hospital Records gave me my first press assistant internship.
Wow.
I think that was like 2005.
Whoa.
Yeah, so I just remember, you know, sending out CDs for them, like I had high contrast music, I was listening to that, making CDs of that, like been in touch with loads of amazing people and artists, and just thinking, I can't believe this. I've been raving since I was 16, looking at all these heroes, and now I'm actually like interacting with some of them.
Wow.
Like, what is life? That kind of feeling. And just feeling just truly honoured, because I loved Hospital so much growing up as well.
I love that feeling. If there's one feeling that I could repeat in my career, is that first music industry job.
Yeah.
Because when everything's just unreal and you can't quite believe it, you're waking up, you're pinching yourself and stuff, because there's nothing, things get better and you get more experience and wilder things happen on your journey, which we're going to find out from you. But that first ever job, that first ever time when the door is open and you're sitting in the room with all of these names being mentioned, or you're part of conversations, I've got goosebumps thinking about that.
Yeah, and I felt just so happy.
Go on.
Yeah, and then from there, I just feel like that's where everything just began with drum and bass. Like, obviously I'd been raving to it for so long, but that's where it really all started. They gave me a lot of opportunities, really, Hospital, and that led on to the Total Science stuff, So that's kind of why I want to take it back before Total Science, really. And then that at Hospital led on to me working at Dogs on Acid.
Wow. And this is peak forum times as well, then, wasn't it?
Time. This is before 2007. This is in that time. I was there for 4 years. So that was when it was all on the forums, but then it sort of developed more into editorial as well. So I was doing interviews with artists, and I was doing reviews, and I was doing all of that sort of stuff. That sort of developed later on.
Wow.
And that's kind of how I started, meeting everybody and doing freelance press on the side. And that's how I met Total Science and that sort of thing. So, I'd say they were the big formative years for me.
Wow.
And also that's when I was DJing on vinyl as well. And Hospital gave me my first ever DJ gig at Hospitality at Herbal.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
Amazing.
I was warming up for the whole night, and I remember like playing it on vinyl. And I think I played Logistics Together. And I double dropped this mix, and it was clanking.
Oh, no.
I was so nervous. I was like, oh my God, this is my first DJ gig. And I think I remember a few months before that being in the car with Tony and Chris. And I was like, I don't have a DJ name. What am I going to put myself, what am I going to name myself as on this flyer? And that day I was wearing camo trousers. And like, what about DJ Camo? And I actually went with that name, and then I changed my name to that on Dogs on Acid. So yeah, a lot of people might know me as that during the Dogs on Acid days. So.
Wow. So before Camo and Crooked were even a thing.
I was DJ Camo.
DJ Camo.
Well,
amazing.
Name, though.
Wow. So you had quite a few years of industry experience before anybody knew about Riya, before you actually sung on a record or anything like that.
Well, before Riya, I sang on tracks under my real name. So that was under Laura Pacheco. And there's a few tracks out there. And I think even on Bungle's album, there was Resized, the track I did with him.
Wow.
Yeah, so I wrote a lot of tracks under my real name.
Right.
Before Riya, because Riya was actually a conscious decision to sort of change my name, really. Yeah. Wow. But that came a lot later.
Okay, so let's go back a minute now and find out, like, when did you start writing songs? When did music come into your life? And was there a kind of key moment where you thought singing would be a big part of your life as you kind of developed and grew up and stuff?
Well, I came from quite a musical family, so I was singing from the age of 4 or 5.
Wow.
My dad loved to sing. That was the thing. That was the way that we bonded. My dad would always have, he had bad taste in music, but we'd be singing loads of ABBA songs over and over and over with my sister. She was a great singer. And I always remember thinking, I want to be like my sister. I want to be able to sing like her. She's got an incredible voice. And so that's what we used to do together. My dad and my sister and me would spend hours just like karaoke, essentially, just singing loads of songs.
Oh, beautiful.
It was really, really lovely, actually. I've got fond memories of that. And my dad used to play the keyboards. And then my brother was like playing different instruments. My mom always had like soul or Motown or other things on. She loved music, loved to dance, loved dance music. So that was all around me. And at primary school, at secondary school, I was involved in music in some way. And it only stopped because I got to secondary school and I was playing 3 different instruments. I was in choir, I was in jazz club, I was in all these different things. And my music teacher was awful, absolutely awful. And he was like, if you don't come to all these different classes after school, I'm going to throw you out the music block. It was his way. Yeah, it was his way of like trying to tough love kind of thing, thinking I would go, oh, okay, well, I'm going to come to them then because I don't want to quit. But actually I was at a point in my life where there was loads of personal things going on, and that pressure was like, no, I can't do this. So I just quit it all. And so that actually put me back a lot with music, and I stopped pursuing it for quite a long time. So that's what I associated music with.
Oh, no way. Wow, you associated with stress then.
With him, and with that. So I didn't touch it for ages. But then when I was sort of 16, 17, I think my first ever work experience was at a recording studio.
Wow.
Because I loved, it was in my blood, music. So it was a phenomenal couple of weeks. I met loads of local artists. I learned how to record vocals, double track vocals, write little things. And that was my first ever attempt at writing a song. I've got a tape somewhere where I wrote a garage song, and I wrote like...
Brilliant.
And I double tracked it, all these harmonies, all these layers and everything. I was like, made my first song. But then again, I went to uni, and that became my focus, and I kind of just went away from it. And I look back and I think, why did I not keep pursuing it? But it doesn't matter because I found it in the end.
Yeah. So everything kind of happens for a reason in that type of way. And it sounded like work, and like you said, coming from a working class background, that was the priority. So even if you wanted to explore music, you were being more pragmatic about things. I
think you're right, actually, Dave. And you just reminded me that even though I came from a musical household, there was also this attitude of that's your plan B or C. Your first plan's got to be get a sensible job, make some, get a career, do that, then think about the music. So it was there on the side, but I was thinking I need to get out of uni. I need to get this job out of uni. I need to do well. And then I can think about pursuing the music, So I think you're right. I'm glad you said that.
What did your parents do? What were their jobs? What type of cultures were you exposed to then kind of growing up that they worked in and stuff?
Yeah, total working class. Like my dad was a mechanic, but so hardworking, like always working. That's what I remember, because he just wanted to make sure that we had food on the table, and he wanted to make sure that we had the things that we needed and everything. And my mom just did a variety of different jobs just around being a mom, because she loved being a mom and she wanted to be there for us. So but it was just the two of them just did what they needed to do to make it work, but it wasn't like pursuing a career. And in speaking to my mom in later life, she wished she could have been a nurse or a counsellor, but she felt like she just didn't get the chance when she was younger. But she doesn't regret that. But it was one of these things that,
doesn't regret that because of what you've turned your life into as well, really. She invested in her children instead in that type of way. How about your sister as well? And if you wanted to sound like her and be like her, she must be incredibly proud of what you've done now.
I don't know if she actually knows that I felt like that actually when I was younger. But I've told her as an adult that she has got a powerful, incredible, like a pop sounding voice. And her job is she works in cover bands and in her own bands and stuff like that, and she's been doing that in the club circuit, the local sort of circuit, and doing really well at it. She's won loads of awards locally and stuff for it. So.
Oh, amazing.
She loves singing other people's songs. She loves pop music and she loves doing that, whereas I always felt like, and this is kind of coming back to your question, when I decided I want to get into it, I felt like I wanted to be more in the writing side, and obviously press was about writing press releases. It was everything was connected to writing. So for me, I was like, well, I want to write my own stuff. And that really came into its own, I think, sort of towards the end of university. And the person that kicked me into that was Total Science.
Cool.
So when I started working with them on their label, doing the press and stuff, they're just hugely inspiring people. Like they were my heroes growing up, one of my heroes growing up. And Paul in particular he was a bit of a mentor for me, really. He introduced me to Lensman.
Wow.
He basically got sent open page. Lensman was like, have you got a vocalist? Do you know anyone? And he said, try Laura. And that's how that happened.
Wow.
And a lot of my early opportunities were because of Paul, Total Science. He introduced me to D-Bridge, to Spy. And then once Open Page came out, the doors opened to everything,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I would say I only really started taking songwriting seriously, like seriously, when about 2009, when I changed my name to Riya.
Right. So that was the moment there where that was kind of the start of a new chapter, or the new
Yeah.
a new mindset. You were approaching it differently. You were going to take it seriously.
Yeah.
Maybe the point where you were properly going to focus in it as a career.
Exactly, because before that, I was behind the scenes, you know, and I thought, I don't remember how it happened, but I remember there being this moment where I thought, I can't be both. I can't be behind the scenes and be an artist. And the experience I was having of being an artist, of seeing other people being artists, I thought, I do want that. I've always loved music, and I've kind of got my degree now, so I think I'm going to try that. I can come back to doing all the press stuff and everything if I want to, do the music, you know. So that was the decision. And I remember just thinking, I spent ages thinking, what's my name going to be? What's my approach? How am I going to write my lyrics? What's my style? All of that.
Wow, how exciting. Like literally looking at a blank canvas and deciding your future there. Like.
Yeah, but that created a big change in the way I wrote. And it was literally only 2 tunes in that Open Page came out.
Wow.
And then it was like, after that, then it was, you know, lots of tunes of Total Science. And I did Testimony, which came out on DJ Dye's label with Spy, and Piano Funk, Red Lines. All of them came after that, you know, so...
Wow.
Something switched in my mind at that point.
Do you still have do you have a book where you write your lyrics and stuff like that? And can you remember when you first, do you have like documentation of that time, or how did you record your lyrics and your writing? Do you still have evidence of that, if you know what I mean?
I actually, somewhere in the loft, I've got the early writings of Seems Like, of when I was scribbling down the words and crossing them out. And I've got the early writings of Open Page as well, bits of it. And I used to use a book, and, I'd lose that book and then I'd find another book and then find that book again. It'd be this constant thing of finding my lyric books. So because of that, and because I'm prone to losing things, I started putting it in my phone and on my computer. And then I've always got it until you forget your password.
Oh, no.
But no, yes, I did. I used to have a lyric book, and I do still have some of those scribblings knocking about somewhere.
Wow. I mean, it's quite, when you actually sit down to properly write, and it's early when, you can't call yourself a writer yet because you haven't had that many things written out into the world. It's a really strange feeling.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you've been doing it for ages, then that's just part of what you do. Mm-hmm. But it's strange because you're admitting to yourself that that's what you want to do. You are manifesting the idea of being a singer by getting out a book and actually putting things down and going, right, I am sitting down to write a song. Can you remember when you started doing that and how that felt?
I think sometimes that process didn't always work for me, just sitting down to do it. I found like it felt like something good had to come out of this session. It was more like I'd put a song on in a car, or I'd be doing a workout with a song on in the background, and then I'd get an idea for it, and then I'd quickly put it into my phone, and then I would sit down to do that, right? Because just sitting down looking at a blank page just felt like pressure. So I never really wrote in that way. What I did was, and a lot of my songs are based on personal experience, and that was part of my stylistic change as well, was that, hang on, I've been through all these things in my life, draw on that as your lyrical content. And that's why I had so many ideas in the beginning. So I had things in my phone that I'd written, like from personal experiences, or a conversation I'd overheard, or a conversation that I'd had. And it was just putting them down into a book, waiting for the right song to come along.
Right.
Then I'd be like, oh, okay, so I've got that idea. Maybe I could use that for this because it fits the vibe of the tune. Or maybe I could use that for this because that, that's a different vibe. And it would work in that way. But it was never like, I'm just going to sit down, I'm going to make this tune now. It kind of worked in piecemeal, piecemeal bits.
Yeah.
And then I brought it all together in the end. And then once I got that idea and a melody and it's flowing, I would be locked in then until I'd finished it. It's like, right, I've got to get this done. Don't disturb me.
Yeah. You're waiting for those building blocks to all come together before you actually start the final build, in a way.
Yeah, and then also getting a song that really inspires you. And that's something I've had to learn, is that if you're not feeling the vibe from the beginning, don't bother. because when I was younger, I just wanted to work with people. I just wanted it so bad that I found it really hard to say no. And it would mean that sometimes I release things that I didn't always love, but I was like, oh, but I just want to get tunes out there.
Yeah.
And I'd work on tracks that I didn't feel anything for, but I just wanted to do it, but I've learned that those tracks where you get it and instantly you love it, instantly there's a vibe, instantly there's an idea, they're the ones that all my best songs have been written that way,
Right. Wow. Yeah. And I guess that is something.
Half an hour. That's yeah. Like I've been sent tracks and half an hour later I've got it down because it's inspired me that much.
Wow.
And obviously there's those bits that I just said, the building blocks before that have helped me do it. But now I'm like looking for those tracks where I'm like straight away. Yeah.
And it's just an instant feeling. You just know that you're going with your gut instinct really in a way then, aren't you?
Yeah.
So what was it like as a singer breaking through around about that time? Like we're talking kind of 2009, 2010, just before the big kind of commercial boom happened that has put us where we are now really. But what was it like as a singer breaking through then in terms of acceptance? Because there weren't that many. Obviously, there was like Jenna G, Diane Charlemagne, Lady Roller and stuff like that. Like there were some really dominant voices, but they were few and far between. There was a lot of samples. Vocalists weren't really credited in many ways. So it was a very different landscape to what it is now, isn't it?
Yeah, and actually, when I was flicking through my press clippings book earlier, I found an interview talking about that very same thing.
Oh, wow.
2012 or something, 2013. And myself and DRS were in that talking about it, and Sense MC and a few others, just saying how difficult it was back then. And yeah, I feel like there were more walls you had to sort of break down just to sort of be credited, particularly like to get space in the live scene. If the tradition is DJ MC, isn't it really? But even for MCs, it was really hard just to be credited properly on flyers or to be acknowledged in the way that they deserve to be. But for vocalists, it was even harder because if you went to a gig, it was going to be DJ MC. I remember getting lots of pushback as a vocalist, promoters saying, yeah, but if we book you and do a live PA, the crowd are going to leave. They're not going to enjoy it. It's just going to disturb the flow of the night, which is a load of rubbish. I mean, there is a way of doing it, of course, but it's a load of rubbish. But that was consistently what I'd be told in terms of being booked. And I was like, I'm not having this. I'm going to find enough is enough kind of thing. And a lot of other vocalists felt that way. And then with the accreditation stuff as well, in terms of accreditation, I mean, on music, Jenna and DRS, I owe a lot to them because before my self-entitled album, Jenna did hers, didn't she, on Bingo Beats, and then DRS did I Don't Like MCs, but, and they did that to sort of make a statement as well that acknowledge vocalists, we're here, we're half the track. And that was the other thing as well, that if I would go to a gig, the producer that I'd made a track with, they'd be getting all the bookings, and then I wouldn't get any bookings because of that resistance. And you're struggling to pay your bills and they're there touring the world, and you're half their track. And that's kind of the challenge, I suppose, has been, well, can the industry just do something to acknowledge the people that are like half the music, essentially? They're creating the hype, they're creating the vibe as well, and they're part of the track, Give us some space to be there,
And I think, because I've spoken to DRS and lots of other MCs, but it was a whole other level of challenge for vocalists in that type of way then, because you did host and stuff like that. You could own a stage and stuff, even at that stage it was just promoters weren't giving you the chance to. Well,
that's the thing. The only reason I got into hosting is because I'm so determined I wasn't going to take no for an answer. So I was coming up against this resistance, and my mentality was, I'm not going to have this, right? I'm going to find a way to get to where I want to get to. And that determination was my driving force, really. I didn't really think about, okay, I'm stepping on traditions here. I was just thinking, I need to find a way.
I want to be there.
I want to be there. I want to be where they are. And I deserve to be, just as other artists deserve to be. So I was like, I'm going to make that happen. So it was, okay, if I need to be a host, I'll be a host. And then I thought, well, I did that for a bit, and I thought, well, the thing is, I'm not even getting to sing my songs when I do this, and I'm not an MC, and I don't love it, but it's getting me on these events. Great, so that's progress.
Yeah.
I was like, so what's the next thing then? What can I do?
Can you remember your first hosting job then? Was that, how did that feel?
Not my very first, because I had such stage fright about doing it that I just completely blocked it out.
Oh, wow.
I had to overcome a lot of anxiety because I think I just didn't feel like I wanted to do it out of determination, but it didn't feel like I was meant to be doing that. A bit like imposter syndrome vibe. Like, I'm not a host, I'm not an MC. So I was like so nervous about it. And there's all these incredible MCs already in existence. So I felt a little bit like I shouldn't be doing this, but at the same time, I want to find a way. So I blocked a lot of it out, essentially. But yeah, so then after that, it was like, well, what can I do? I'm going to have to, do the DJ MC thing.
Right.
Then I can put myself on. I can control what gets played, be on the flyers, be on the lineups. And
you can sing your own songs.
Sing my own songs, and with that came a lot of challenges too, because
So you were already DJing, because you were DJing on vinyl, so you could do the mixing
DJ from
thing.
18, yeah.
So then it was a case of working out a technique, really, a formula in order to let you do that, let you mix and sing at the same time.
Yeah.
And this was 2015, let's remember now.
Before that, but that's when the album came out.
Right, okay.
So because I'd been thinking about it for a couple of years before the album came out, and Native Instruments, obviously they've got controllers, and actually my ex said to me, he knew all about Native Instruments and controllers because he had them himself. I didn't actually know that much about it. And he said, you know what, you could think about using this because it's got various different tools and stuff that will help you. And I thought, oh, okay. So then I actually contacted Native Instruments, and they trained me on like what you could use, all the different controllers, and showed me how to use it so that then I could present my album, really.
Wow. So all of that was going on in the background as we were writing the album and bringing the album together. And that album was a huge success as well. It was nominated for loads of different awards and stuff like that. It was, I remember it really well, right in the Drum and Bass Arena Awards. And it just kept coming up in all of the nominations. It was you and DRS were really like the only kind of vocalist who kept on appearing all of the time.
That was a big year for both of us. Yeah. It really was.
So behind the scenes, you're bringing the album together and everything, and that was a huge groundbreaking album for you. You're also developing a live show as well, knowing that this was the moment to present yourself as a proper performer and overcome all of that, the challenges that you'd had for all of those years before.
Yeah, and I thought that's what would happen, and it did. It was received really well, but because no one was doing it in the clubs and I was using different equipment to what was in the clubs, there was the sound engineers and the tech teams were like, oh, so what is this and how do you make this work and how do you hear yourself and what's the monitoring situation? And so there were all these other things there that I had to overcome, but it's fine because, I've done so many different versions of it now that I sort of found out how to do it, and I'm so proud that I have because it's given me all these incredible opportunities, which I don't think I would have got had I have not done that format. And I think what's also been beautiful about it is that naturally when you do something different like that, people start paying attention and they're like, some people hate it and some people are genuinely inspired by it, aren't they? They're like, okay, I want to do that. And I feel that, and other vocalists have come up to me and said, I've watched you do that and I realised I could do it myself. So then I started to do it myself. And now I can't, it'd be hard for me to say that it's all down to me because it's not, because then Coven came along, other people came along doing the same thing. Everyone collectively that is doing it inspires each other. But I like to think that I definitely had a part in that, the start of that wave.
Definitely. I know like Charlie Bricks was doing it about 2017. So now this was 2015. You are the first singer who I know within our world of drum and bass to really kind of do that. And to take it to the levels that you did, really explore it and find solutions, find the tech and go, I love the defiance of that. I love the fact that you've just gone, right, okay, this is what I want to do. I'm going to find a way of doing it. Fuck you, basically, in a way.
I just feel like drum and bass is my passion. You know that because I've been doing it all my life, really. I've been involved in it in some way all my life, from a raver to what I am now. And even the behind the scenes stuff. And I just felt the injustice of it just annoyed me. I was like, hang on. Not just for me, but other singers as well. It was conversation that we were just having a lot behind the scenes. And And I mean, I think it probably came from my own just desire to want to be seen. But then as I've got older, it's more about the collective, you know, it's more about what can we do together.
Yeah.
And bring each other up, you know. So, yeah.
That's something that I've really loved about seeing, because also at this time, you know, like there's also, you know, things are a lot more fairer with diversity now. That conversation is out in the open and no one can hide anymore now. Like, you know, things have to be fairer and they have to get better. And we are on that path. But back then we weren't really quite as much. There wasn't that as a priority.
No.
Really.
And I think you asked me this about what the experience as well coming through. And I didn't feel it was as welcoming. You know, I feel now it feels, more inclusive and diverse. But there was a lot of, it felt like people were protective of their own camps, protective of their own thing, didn't want to knowledge share as much, didn't want to give their little tips away, you know, holding tunes. Like, I remember if someone would get sent a tune, I mean, this still happens now, but not as great an extent. And like only 3 or 4 people could have it. And nobody, if they did, like, you know, people would fall out with you massively. And there was all these little things going on, little clubs, private clubs, little cliques. And
I bet you were privy to all of that, being behind the scenes.
I saw a lot of different things. I saw a lot of different things. Some things good, some things not so good, you know. But and I like now that it doesn't, there are still the little camps, but it doesn't feel like it's so hard to break through. Like, I felt like part of the reason that I broke through at the time I did was because Total Science said, this is a good vocalist, and kind of put their name up for me. And then everyone was like, oh, okay. But if I hadn't have had that, I don't know who's to say. I felt like you needed someone to vouch for you more back then. But now, if you put a good video up on social media or something like that, you can catch the attention of way more people. And there's other avenues. You get way more potential for power now. So, you know, I think so. And I think it's the internet which has created that. So there's way more people all gunning for opportunities, but there's way more opportunities as well. And you can create them yourself. You don't have to, kind of roll with particular people or wait for those doors to be open for you. You can open them yourself in a way. And what I love about the, you know, kind of vocalists coming through and how supportive you all are. And I've said it every year when I was doing the Drum and Bass Arena Awards, it's always a different, you know, there was that time where yourself and DRS were kind of winning it. I think DRS making a statement saying, don't vote for me. I remember that.
You know, I think that was a really important part for progress. But then it's seeing how you all behave online. It's this really supportive, it's a category, it's a, you know, that category is always really different, having done the awards for so many years. The supportive nature between you, the way everybody is getting other people to vote, you know, you're getting people to vote for other people, and you didn't see that before. And I think that's really reflective of the new culture and the new energy that's in drum and bass. Really.
It is. And I think it's wonderful. And I think we should be working towards more of that anyway. And I think it's good because we're a community. We're a small community, really.
Yeah, in the grand scheme of things.
We are. You know, I know drum and bass is a lot bigger now, but it is still relatively small and niche. And I just think we need to be looking out for each other, and particularly for vocalists as well, you know, knowledge sharing, just being more friendly. Like Ruth Royal came to me once and she wanted to do the DJ vocal thing, and she asked me, you know, how do I go about doing it, what do I do? And I was more than happy to sort of say, well, this is this and this, and you know, and I think more of that, bring more of that, you know, let's try and be supportive of each other, help each other up.
Yeah, the more people helping each other, the more opportunities there are, really, I think, you know. And there was an argument for protecting things, I think, in the 90s maybe, but the whole culture now, you know, with people doing tutorials, people sharing knowledge, it has to be that way now. In order for anybody to progress, we all have to help each other, really, I think, in that type of way.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, another thing that's really indicative of that is what you're doing now with Colette as well, with Carnelian Music.
Well, that was sort of born out of that whole thing as well, of just wanting to support more vocalists, just wanting to have a space, albeit a small space, because it's only just started, you know, but to give a platform to other vocalists, perhaps that aren't as well known, maybe they haven't even done any music yet, to have a chance to work with a producer and put something out. Yeah. You know, and Gemma Rose, who was one of our first releases, we did a night with her in Liverpool, we didn't really know who she was at all, but we were just blown away by her talent. And we've since then discovered she's a music teacher, and, you know, she's been involved in music professionally in other ways and all of that stuff. But she really just wanted to make some drum and bass music, and we loved what she was about. She was a great performer, and we thought, you know what, let's get her together with a producer. And producers are always looking for vocalists, aren't they? New vocalists. So, and that's kind of what we want to try and do in between putting out our own music. But it takes time, it takes investment, it takes money, all of that. So it's a slow thing, but the intention is there.
That's brilliant. I mean, let's rewind back to the very start of like you and Colette. You've been friends since, I think, 2011. I think you met at Sun and Bass, wasn't it?
Oi.
Brilliant.
Yeah, we've been lifelong. Well, actually, when we traced it back, we've been friends. Not friends, we've known each other before in some way or another, because we're always at the same raves. Right. My brother dated her best friends.
Wow.
Yeah, this is all going back to like the age of 15, 16. So in some way our lives have been intertwined and connected.
Are you from similar areas then originally?
Well, she's from Erdington in Birmingham. I'm from Walsall, but my brother was always in Birmingham. Right. And of course I went to all the raves in Birmingham at the Q Club, and she was at those, and Slamming Vinyl in Milton Keynes, and we were always at the same ones. And I always remember thinking, who's that girl with the long hair? Because she was always there, like raving at the front. And I don't know why I didn't go and say hi to her really, but yeah, it was at Sun and Bass that we officially sort of met each other and got to know each other.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I should have really looked this up before. Was Colette already singing by then?
She was in Tali's, but yes, she was. But she was more a backing singer in Tali's band, in her live band.
Right.
Because Tali used to live in London. And Tali had this live band.
Yeah.
So Colette was the backing singer for that. And she was doing that at Sun and Bass. And she liked my music and messaged me, Colette did, and said, oh, can we meet up for a drink? I'd love to hang out. And we just hit it off. Brilliant. And then I think Piano Funk came out the year after, and I wanted to do an acoustic version. I asked her to do backing vocals for me because she'd been doing it for Tali. So we did the live acoustic version. Colette was in that. And then it kind of just developed from there. You know, I lived with her in London for like 6 months in her little studio flat when I moved there. And she was like, come live with me. I'll give you a place to stay for free.
Oh, wow. Go on.
And introduced me to all of her friends. Some of her friends are my best friends now. So, we've just kind of, grown together, I suppose.
Wow. So then everything that you've achieved in the last few years then, the album and everything, that was always going to happen then in one way or another.
It feels like it was meant to be. We say that. It feels like somewhere or another. It feels like our lives were we were crossing paths way before it was meant to happen at some point. And when we first worked together, it was on my album. We did Piece of Me. And it was such a fun writing process. We were on the train going up to see DRS and all the Manchester lot, actually. We were having a weekend there. And we wrote it on this like Virgin train in first class, having a couple of drinks. And the whole tune came out. We're like, oh, this is so fun. We've got to do another one again. And then obviously when COVID happened, we were like, we were both quite depressed because obviously all of our work had been taken away. We're like, well, no, we need to do something productive. So that's when the album
Brilliant. Because I was going to say, it was like that was one of those silver linings, and I was all about trying to find the silver linings during it because it was such a rubbish time. So anything like that, because you found funding through PRS. It was a groundbreaking album in lots of different ways.
Thank you, Dave. Yeah, it was. So we thought, at the time, we wanted to do the album as a way to get through it, but also we were thinking the gender imbalance in music. There's not many labels run by women. We saw this PRS grant, which is women making music. And it was about doing things differently, as a woman, trying to break different ground. And we thought, well, okay, if we do this album together as two vocalists, female vocalists, I can't think of that happening in drum and bass, an album together anyway, two female vocalists. Then if we release it on our own label, two women running it, So we're thinking of this for the grant, basically. Remember writing this application and we didn't think we'd get it, but we did. So then it was like, great. Well, we've got this list of people we wanted to work with, and we just started approaching them. And we spent like a year doing it, and it just got us through that time. And we used a lot of our personal experience and feelings, were put into the songs of that time. It was like a conversation between us, like pep talks that we were having with each other.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah. So, because I mean, the whole title of it and the concept of there being two sides to every story, really, or more than two sides, more perspectives, really. And this was your coping strategy then, the pair of you. This is how you carried each other through a really, really rubbish time with everything that was going on. And then the effect of COVID on all of our personal lives and on the internet as well. It was just like, especially that time, like 2021, was just, that particular year was really awful, really, wasn't it? And that must have been when you were bringing it together.
That's what, and I used to have like days of the week, a couple of days in the week when I go up to Bristol, because I didn't live in Bristol then, and I'd just go and stay with her, and we'd just spend a couple of days writing, and it was like, you know, my little haven, home away from home, where I could just go and have a bit of fun and get all my feelings down on paper. It's like a therapy session. And so all the songs basically just our little pep talk. So yeah.
Brilliant. I mean, that seems to be a theme really for you anyway, as a writer, as a singer, this is your way of getting the shit out of your system, sorting your head out, really.
Yeah, it's cheaper.
There's got to be an art to that, really, in a way of getting those feelings out, but also maintaining an element of privacy as well. So you're not, you're not explicit with your lyrics. You're always kind of referencing things which people can, I mean, this is the beauty of lyric writing anyway, is people being able to find things that they can relate to, or finding their own narrative, really, or, an echo in their own emotions and finding solace in that. But I think there's a real art form to that, really, isn't there?
Yeah, and I think that's something I'm still learning. I'll always be learning. And, you learn from other people and new songwriters that come through and they have a different style. And I've learned so much from the new wave of vocalists that come through. I'm always sort of learning. But from the beginning of changing my name to Riya, my stylistic approach was write things cryptically, write about your own personal experience, but write it in a way that could be perceived 2 or 3 different ways.
Yeah.
So that the listener can interpret it how they want, depending on what's going on in their life. And always try and have a love angle to it, because that's universal, isn't it, the concept?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's hard though, because sometimes when you're putting your feelings on paper, it's very personal, and it's hard for it not to show glimmers of a certain person or a certain time, because you don't want to reveal those things. It's not nice for them, is it, really, the person that's involved? And so that it can be quite hard. And I have had songs that I've written and thought about releasing it, and someone wants it, and I thought maybe not, actually, because I think it might be just a bit too revealing.
Wow.
That person might hear it and think, is that about me?
Yeah.
And the older I've got, certainly I've become definitely more in tune with that, because I don't want to upset people.
No, that's not why you do it.
Or have had a relationship with, that my process is my process, but I'm okay with putting my feelings out there for the world, but that doesn't mean everyone else is.
Yeah.
And it's only my take on it at the end of the day. So it's not fair, is it? So yeah, I've kind of had to step back a little bit in terms of that.
Yeah. But I guess that's an art form and a skill then that you're always going to be learning and perfecting there, really. And there are no rules, in terms of kind of production, there's tech benchmarks and ways of doing things, but when it's just pen to paper, that hasn't changed in that type of way, really.
Yeah, and I mean, I have to approach a song in a certain way. I feel like I have to think about it. There's a verse, there's a chorus. I want to get a hook. I want to get a repeating line. So I have to think, what's a catchy title? What's a catchy line? What things resonate with a lot of people? Have I heard this phrase being said a lot? I have to think about those things.
Wow.
So I might be like, okay, this is a concept that's personal to me, but is there another word that describes it that maybe more people understand? Or so then there's that whole process of like reading loads of other lyrics, poems, researching a thesaurus, and there's all of that to then get to the end result, really. But yeah.
Wow, cool. All of these little kind of checks that you do then, all of these little processes along the way that people may not know or not really kind of think about when they're listening to the lyrics.
Yeah. A song title could change many times before it actually ends up being what it is.
Wow. I mean, I didn't put this in the questions ahead of the interview, and it might put you on the spot a bit, but what is the proudest kind of bit of songwriting that you've ever done then? When you think like, yeah, I ticked all of the boxes on that, I'm really happy with that. Or is that too much of a personal question?
No,
to ask,
it's not
actually?
really. I mean, I'm happy answering it. I mean, if I'm prepared to put my feelings out there into the world in the form of a song, I've got to be okay talking about it. Do you know what I mean? I'd say the two biggest, there's two really. And I've got to give Open Page it because it opened all the doors, but also I think I didn't realise, and I think a lot of artists don't realise this when they start writing a song, how much it's going to resonate with people. Yeah. That was a very personal bit of writing about a relationship breakdown that I was going through at the time. And I it was 100% how I was feeling, but I didn't realise the impact it was going to have. And I'm so grateful that happened, because I don't think I'd be where I am now had that tune not have taken off.
Wow.
So I'm proud of it in its songwriting, because, and I think the delicacy of how I sang it as well, it's probably the most delicate form of singing I've done, really. It's more like I'm whispering it. So yeah, I was really, really happy with that song. And what I was so happy about with that song is, so Goldie obviously knew of me before Riya, because I interviewed him on my dissertation as well.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so we kind of had a relationship from then. And he didn't really like my Laura Pacheco stuff under the name of Laura Pacheco, and that's fair, because it wasn't that great anyway. But I remember having a conversation about Open Page. He didn't know it was me, and he called me up and he was like, "So this Open Page tune, are you telling me it's you? Is Riya you?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he was like, "No fucking way. No fucking," just kept swearing. He's like, this tune, Riya, this tune, da, da, da. I'm so proud of you, da, da, da. And that moment for me was like, yes.
Go on.
Yes. He was like, "Wow, you've come along. I didn't realise it was you. It's so different to your older stuff.
Go on.
You've come a long way. Well done," basically. It was like a pat on the back. And so that for me was like, yes. I was absolutely chuffed with that. And then I've got to say Kismet, because it's like one of my, that I wrote about AJ, and, I wrote it, I was very, very, it's a love story, essentially, and I feel like that has touched so many people's lives. Again, I didn't know that was going to happen. I just wrote from the heart. But I've had people say it's their wedding song. It's when they have a new baby, they play it then, and I'm like, wow. I could not ever imagine in my mind that a song would ever touch people's lives in that way. Yeah. When I was little, Laura, there was no way I ever thought that would ever happen. So when you get these messages, it's really, it feels
beautiful.
Good. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, because that's not something you can ever anticipate when you're actually writing a song in any
you
type
never
of way.
know. You never know. And also I found that the songs you think are going to do well, don't do well. And sometimes the songs you think aren't going to do well. So you just cannot anticipate it or how people are going to respond. So
What's been the most touching feedback you've had in that way? Like a circumstance where somebody has used your music where it's beyond any imagination?
People that have been close to taking their own life. I get lots of messages about that, and they say that my music stopped them from doing that. Because I think because my songs are so personal, and some of them, especially my older tracks, very raw, very deep and personal about my own struggles in life, I think they hear that in the track, and they've said that it's made them feel less alone, and it's really helped them, get through that. And I can't really think of any greater feeling of knowing that someone is in their deepest, darkest moments, and that they can put on a song and feel like actually everything's like, I'm going to be able to get through this. I think that's the most touching thing.
That's incredible, really, isn't it? Wow, that's the ultimate compliment. It's the ultimate thing you could do with your music, really.
It really is. And again, I never got into it thinking that that's what would happen, but there are all these beautiful things that come as a result of it. So I'm grateful for that.
Wow. I mean, that's so important. And I think that, highlights like another benefit of having vocals and music really is that ability then to kind of trigger discussions or make people feel that they're not alone and stuff like that. And especially with mental health, we're in a much better place than we ever were, when, we both started in the music industry, no one ever really talked about mental health at all.
No, not as much as now.
Yeah. And I mean, who has done that for you in terms of kind of when you listen to things, kind of who soothes your soul in that way or makes you feel better when you might be feeling low?
I mean, there's so many different, are we talking about influences here? Or are we just talking about people that I just really love?
Anything.
I mean, okay, so in terms of drum and bass, I think when I was growing up, a lot of the vocalists soothed my soul, really. I loved Stamina, I loved Darrison, I loved Jenna, DRS. Tali, she was like a big inspiration for me, but I just loved her lyrics. It just gave me the idea that I could do this myself, you know, and it kind of lifted me up. Darrison, like his vibe totally lifted me up. He's so fun, and I used to think, oh, if one day I can make a track like Darrison, I'd be so happy. And then we were on the same lineup together a couple of weekends ago. That was beautiful. So yeah, and then I think there's a lot of new vocalists in drum and bass that have really inspired me with their lyrics, like Charlotte Haynen. I absolutely love her stuff. I love her voice, and there's something about the quality of her voice that just does, you know, just touches you on a different level. Yeah. I love Ruth Royal as well. I've loved some of Shady Novelle's stuff. Obviously love some of Colette's stuff. Got to give her a little shout out. But I mean, outside of drum and bass, really, and I'm sorry, I've probably forgotten some people, so if I have, please forgive me.
Yeah. Well, earlier on when I was talking about prominent female voices, I missed out Tali, and I'm cringing that I missed out Tali. So
you know what it's like, Dave, right? There's such a long list that it's so easy to forget. And I always think afterwards, oh no, I should have said that person. But there's just so many to mention.
Yeah, we've got a disclaimer out there now.
Yeah, exactly. There's a disclaimer. And then there's loads of people. There's so many, because I draw on hip hop, I draw on soul, I draw on Motown. There's some pop, there's some folk, there's all sorts of people. It just depends what mood I'm in. And then even like not just voices, but meditation music or sound therapy, that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you were talking about kind of things like resonating with you, and Charlotte's voice resonating with you in a different level. And that made me think, like, you know, that's where we're going to go next with this conversation. I mean, behind the scenes now, in amongst all of this, like all of the stuff that you're doing with Colette, moving to Bristol, getting through the last few weird years and stuff like that. You've also spent the last 5 years studying, haven't you? So tell me everything about sound therapy.
Yeah, oh God, that's a big... Can't tell you
everything that you've learned in 5 years.
Right, do we need another podcast to do the documentary? No, I mean, I got into it because there was a year that was very stressful in my life. I'm not going to go into the details of it, but there was a lot of very deep, very dark personal things going on alongside working a full-time job, alongside doing all my music stuff. Basically, there was so much going on. I had no headspace. I was just like, somebody help me. And I needed a way to calm and just de-stress, because my body was physically showing it. Like, I started losing all my hair.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I like lost most of my hair in different places. I had digestive issues. I had really bad acne. I mean, the list went on, and it was basically my body just saying, this isn't okay. Like, you need to find ways to feel better and to make some changes in your life. So anyway, I was walking in London one day, and I went past this advert for a sound bath, and I was like, oh, obviously being musically minded, that caught my eye, and I thought, oh, what's that? It said Crystal Bowl sound bath, and I thought, okay, I'm going to go to that because it's supposed to be great for relaxation. And I went to it, and that was the start of it all for me, because I remember feeling blissfully relaxed.
So what's the process? Do you lie down? Is it an actual bath then, or do you lie down? Because I've seen it at WOMAD, and it's more of a table, but that might be like a kind of temporary
That's a one-to-one.
setup,
Yeah, that's
right.
So you can have a group experience, or you can have a one-to-one experience, which is more intensive and a lot deeper. But the group experience which is what I went to initially. There's could be anywhere between 10 people and let's say 30 people, unless you're in a massive festival. You could have hundreds of people, but yeah, they're all laid down on like yoga mats with blankets, and you've got a pillow under your head, and then you've got like a pillow under your knee just to support your knee. And you just want to get as comfortable as possible so that helps with the relaxation part. And then you've got someone at the front, a sound therapist, a sound healer, a musician. There's many different versions of it, but they've got therapeutic instruments. That could be gongs, could be Himalayan bowls, that could be crystal bowls. There's a monochord. I'm trying to think of all the other ones. Therapeutic percussion. That's a few just examples of it. And then you play it in a certain way to basically get the body into deep relaxation. But it's so clever because the sound waves entrain your brain waves, and it just slows everything down. And after about 10 minutes, most people feel relaxed. Wow. And it gets you into this thing called an altered state, which is can be quite similar to being on psychedelics. So some people say that they see visual patterns, like at the start of a psychedelic trip. You might have visions about your life. You might see faces, images. You get ideas about how to solve your problems in real life. Pain reduces, stress reduces, heart rate reduces. I mean, the list goes on and on. It's different for everybody. But that's what happened to me. So I had this crystal bowl sound bath, and, she's playing these bowls, and I was like, the stress and my problems, I started to get ideas about how I could solve them and what I could do and what the next step would be. And so I kept going back, and it kept helping me see these things about myself and feel better. And I thought, this is just incredible. I need to learn how to do this. And so that was the start of my training. And I went and trained with different people, learned how to play gongs, and I learned how to hold group sound baths. And then the last qualification I just did was for a couple of years, and that's all about holding one-to-one intensives. So yeah, you can imagine when you're in a group, those instruments are going around everyone. When it's just a one-to-one, it's just focused on you. So the vibrations are much stronger, the impact is much stronger, and that is great for if you've got deep issues, you've got chronic pain, arthritis, fibromyalgia, ongoing depression. If you have a few sessions of it, I mean, the things I was seeing when I was doing my case studies are just, I can't even put into words. People were not having to take painkillers.
Wow.
They were walking out feeling their pain had been reduced by 50%, where they'd had it for years, not being able to walk and things, feeling happier, feeling like they could see their problems differently, their life differently. It is genuinely, I feel like I want more people to experience it and to know about it, because I think it's a game changer.
Wow. So and it changed the game for you then, before you started studying it, when you just went as, kind of to experience it then, all of those issues of stress that you were experiencing then started to go away as well. Yeah.
Because when we're stressed, right, I know it's a bit scientific here, but when we're stressed, our brain waves go into this faster state, right? And when we're in that state, it's really hard to see anything from a different perspective. You just can't solve anything, because you're so jacked up with everything, aren't you? And your breathing's quicker, and your physiology is just survival, essentially.
Yeah.
And so it's about finding ways to get you into that relaxed state so you can start seeing things differently. And for me, that's what sound therapy was. For some people, it might not be. For other people, it might be going out for a run, or it might be making a piece of music or whatever. But I truly believe, though, that it's so impactful. And I really want more people to try it. So hopefully I'll be able to bring it to more people in Bristol. That's the plan anyway.
Amazing. And again, it's sound, using sound, but to change lives and have a positive kind of effect in the world in that way.
Yeah, hopefully. That's my vision anyway. Fingers crossed.
Go on. That's incredible. So we kind of started the conversation with you doing your studies, and now we're kind of wrapping it up with you just finishing your studies there, really. But the first, when, you interviewed me, it was all about the future of the music industry. And at that point in 2007, and I can't remember what I wrote, and I imagine it was all completely, it would have been how old would I have been? 28 or something, year-old Dave, who'd only just been working in the industry with nowhere near as much insight. But that was such a kind of key turning point, really, that nobody knew where the industry was going to go at that point, really, did they?
It was actually quite a scary time, I remember, because before that, it was very much all analog, really, and people were making music in analog format, and then it all started changing to digital. More people were using digital DAWs and Ableton and things, but also it was more about the formats of things. It used to be people would buy vinyl.
Yeah.
And then it was CDs, and CDs were starting to die out. MP3s were coming through, and it was all about file ripping. Do you remember Napster and all of that? People illegally downloading music. What was the future of music because of that? And I think that's when Spotify and
streaming was about to blow up
coming
then.
Out.
Yeah.
But it completely changed how much money an artist could make as well, because the artists that I knew that used to were selling their music on vinyl. I mean, it was a different game.
Yeah.
They could live off music and earn a lot of money.
Yeah, you'd have a nice car, pay off your mortgage and stuff. And everybody would eat. That's the one thing that I did like about the old model, is that, the designer would get paid, the distributor would get paid, the record shop would get paid. Everybody was able to take their portion of that, because there was enough of a portion being spent on music. Really.
Absolutely. And now the struggle is real.
Oh, wow. Hugely. But I mean, what hopes do you have for the future now? So I can flip this question. This is what you first asked me 15 years ago. Is it 15? Yeah, about 15 years ago, maybe 16 years ago. What's the future of the industry now? What hopes do you have?
Dear Dave, what a question.
I've been waiting all of these years to ask you that question.
I have no idea. I wish I could see into my crystal ball. But no, I mean, I would like for artists just to get paid properly again. That I would like. What saddens me is that people work so hard, so artists work so hard and yet have to do another job or do 2 or 3 other jobs, even though I feel like that shouldn't be the case. I feel like music is one of those industries, and art as well, that there seems to be a little value to. Like people expect to get it for free or little money.
Yeah.
And I don't think it should be that way, because there's other parts of the world and other industries where people are willing to spend quite a lot of money, but music and art is what gets us through hard times. It's what makes the world go round. And I feel like if someone is a really good artist, they should be able to just live off that, and that's their only job. So I just like people to be paid better. And I don't know how that happens, but even streaming, like the amount that we got initially per stream was something like 0.0007p per stream. And now it's gone down to like 0.0002 or something.
Wow.
So it's like nearly zero for every stream. And it's just hard to get your head around if you've got millions of streams, yet you're getting paid £100 for it.
It's not right.
It's not right.
Yeah.
So that's just pay people properly. I don't have the answer, but that's what I would like.
I think it's the age-old challenge, really, of just trying to work out like something that people have been expecting for free for so long. Mm-hmm. Like, how do we actually monetize this now? Really, it's the challenge that I face every single day with One More Thing, really, in that way. And it involves a whole mindset. But what I am encouraged by, and certainly, what we touched on before, is that community feel of people helping each other out and people really supporting. And that's something that we didn't have before. And I'm kind of hoping that will lead to something, a new discourse or a new paradigm within this industry, which does help us get through. Or otherwise, this all is based on people's passions, really, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's not I do feel like, and I have seen that happen in the past couple of years, is artists start dropping out because they can't do it. They can't pay for their bills and everything. There comes a point when they have to say, well, I can't just keep doing it as a passion, because it's about time and energy, isn't it? If they've got a family or whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't want that to keep happening. So yeah, hopefully the community thing will evolve too.
I hope so too. But in the meantime, thank you very much and best luck to you in the future.
Thank you, Dave.
Awesome.
I'm sure we'll be seeing more of each other over the next 15 years anyway.
Definitely. Thank you very much. Awesome.